Hi, welcome to Church for Skeptics. We could say part two. In this video series, we are disrespecting, you might say, the theory of evolution. The reason for that is I think it's the there is no God at all theory, and I think that's the bottom line for what it is. I don't think that the facts that seem to support the theory of evolution are actual. They're real facts, but they don't support the theory. That's my point here. It's kind of a bait and switch idea. So when evolutionists say evolution's a fact, what are they talking about? Well, last time we talked about natural selection. How does the fact that things go extinct prove common descent? And I want to make this point here. The heart of Darwinian evolution is common descent. There was one picture, I've said this earlier, but one picture in Darwin's book, Origin of the Species. It was the tree of life. Everything goes back down to one single, one cell living organism, and everything comes from that. So we talked about natural selection not pointing to the theory itself, even though it's used to support the theory. The second driver for evolution is mutation. That's how it changed. Natural selection doesn't really change anything in a species. It talks about the survival of the fittest, but not the arrival of the fittest. How do those things get there to begin with? Well, I think they all got there by the creation of God, and they all came fully formed and devolved, and we're going to talk about that at the end here. So the second driver is mutations. Do mutations, which are facts, we know that, do they support the theory, the general theory of evolution? And they do not. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. Let me give you an illustration for why that is true. Mutations are genetic mistakes. As cells replicate and reproduce, they make mistakes. And it used to be that there weren't that many mistakes, but now we know that there are maybe 50 times as many genetic mistakes as there used to be, not because there are more, just because we understand it better now. And the question is, here's the other heart of the theory. It's common descent. Everything comes from one random living cell. But the other part is to go from that one living cell to us. It requires, from mutations, from genetic mistakes, it has to go from the simplest living information, which itself is, they say, more information than the Encyclopedia Britannica. Wow. But it requires going from simple to complex. So if we're starting with one simple living cell, even as complicated as that is by chance, to the 4 trillion cells, DNA cells in our bodies, we're going from a lot less information to a lot more information via mistakes. Here's the illustration. Every time we copy something, let's take the Bible. Every time somebody copied a manuscript, there are about 25,000 manuscripts of varying sizes, mistakes were made. People make mistakes. Even intelligent people make mistakes. And as those mistakes accumulate, you get less and less information, not more and more complex information. If it were not for intelligence sort of putting Humpty Dumpty back together again, we wouldn't have a Bible. Of course, now we have the printing press, so it's more stabilized. Compare that to the whole mutation idea. DNA is information. Even I mean, you can't talk about DNA without talking about information. Every time mistakes are made, we don't lose information. We can't go from simple to complex. Let me read you a couple things here these are from scientists, of course, and I'll make this case, and it's pretty simple. Information maintenance. That's what happens in our bodies as we duplicate and replicate our living cells, and it happens all this. It's happening as we speak right now. Now get this: in 60 years' time, I'm a little older than that. In a 60-year-old person, they probably have about, and this is science, 40,000 mistakes, mutations, just in their intestinal tract alone. Now, let me just read here at the end of this. It's estimated that a 60-year-old person has 40,000 mutations. Now, here's the point. Here's the big point. None of those mutations add genetic information. As a matter of fact, there are no mutations that add genetic information. Once in a very rare occasion, you have a mutation that helps survival, but it always helps, and we'll do this on another video, I won't do it today, it always breaks something. Mutations give us less information. Sometimes, if you lose hearing and you're allergic to sound, then that mutation may help you survive, but it's you're breaking something. That's always what happens because it's a mistake. And listen to this again. It's estimated that a 60-year-old person has 40,000 mutations in each cell lining. In each cell lining. That's 40,000 times how many cells in our intestinal tract. In fact, now watch this, barring accidents and disease, this inexorable accumulation of errors will lead to the death of us all. The vast number of mutations, and we know this now, they can actually map them, which is remarkable. I mean, science is remarkable. Are slightly, they call them deleterious. In other words, they're slightly negative, but natural selection doesn't even see them. So as they accumulate, we're getting less and less information in our own bodies here. Here's an amazing thing, and I'll finish with this. A creator God engineered a brilliant mechanism to protect humanity from the effects of these mutations. When an egg is fertilized, the zygote, that is the really baby human, goes through a limited number of cell divisions before the cells for the next generation, that means the eggs in a female, are formed. Only 23 cell replications until the ovaries are fully nurtured and formed. And then they don't cell divide anymore until they reach the place where they can reproduce. Now, if you think that is a result of accidental mutations, then you really are embracing a theory that doesn't have any meat behind it. So we'll come back and talk about this more, but I just want you to follow up on this. Natural selections don't point to the general theory of evolution. Natural selection's a fact. Mutations, which are facts as well, really don't point to going from simple to complex any more than natural selection points to common descent. So I hope you're just thinking about this. We'll come back and make a couple new videos shortly. Thanks.